Thank you so much for joining us today. And with that, I would like to begin with the workshop. When we have our dignitaries available to address, we shall invite them once again. So to begin with, our president just told us that evaluation is like having breakfast, if not breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So I would like to begin on that note. Can anybody tell me what you had for lunch? I know dinner is not yet, perhaps some of you have had dinner. So if anyone can tell me what you all had either for lunch or dinner. We have Toastmaster Sindhamul telling us that she had an egg sandwich. Toastmaster Sindhamul, can you describe your egg sandwich? What was in your egg sandwich?
There was bread up and down. In the middle, there was egg and there was cheese as well.
You had an egg sandwich that had 2 slices of bread and an egg in between with cheese, and all that put together, you enjoyed your lunch. So right now, you know what you did was you just evaluated that sandwich. While preparing, you must have not given it a thought because you were busy preparing it. And even while eating, I'm sure you must have not given it a thought because you were multitasking, working and eating. But right now, because I asked you to break it down, you told me exactly how that sandwich was prepared, how you enjoyed eating it, and what went into it on the whole. Ladies and gentlemen, Toastmasters, guests, this is exactly what we do on a daily basis. Imagine you are in a restaurant, you are eating your meal, and the manager of the restaurant comes and asks you, how is the meal? And with your mouth full, you're trying to explain that that meal is delicious, and you just nod your head and you shake your head and say, you try to convey that it was delicious. But is that any kind of evaluation of that meal? Is that a feedback that you would want to give? Is that the feedback that the manager wants to receive? No. So at the end of the meal, they will also give you a pamphlet where you tick whether the food was good, the ambience was good, and mostly with regards to the food. Okay, there is a with regards to service as well. That's where they are collecting all the feedback to know how to improve. When we give a speech and when we evaluate that speech, we are giving feedback to the speaker on how to improve. And that feedback definitely needs to be effective. It should drive the speaker to improve in the next speech. So today in this workshop titled Effective Evaluation, I am going to show you how at a club meeting, you can effectively evaluate a speech, and not just club meeting, take it up to the contest. Because what you practice at club meetings is what you can accumulate and take it to the contest. So let me share my screen. So now we are going to understand how to give effective evaluation. And to do that, just as we analyzed the sandwich, we are going to analyze our speech. And to analyze this speech, what we need to do is get the details of the elements and structure of a speech. Now, in the case of the sandwich, what were the elements? The elements in the sandwich were the bread and the egg and the cheese. And the structure was how it was layered in the egg in between the bread and how it was prepared, right? So what do you think are the elements and structures of a speech? Let's do elements first. Toastmaster Sweta has raised her hand. Yes, Toastmaster Sweta. What are the elements of a speech?
Body and conclusion.
Let's see. So according to Toastmaster Sweta, it is opening, body, and conclusion. And she's right. We will get to it. So first of all, the elements would be the content of the speech. That is the bread and egg, as in the example that we provided. So that is the content. Delivery is how it was on the inside, how it was perceived, how it was taken, and the purpose of the speech. Now we come to what Toastmaster Sweta said. In the content of a speech, what is there what should be there in the content of a speech? There should be an opening, a body, conclusion, and that entire list, a hook, a storyline, transition, tries, humor, vocabulary, quotes and phrases, and call for action. By now you're telling me, why are you telling us what is a speech made up of? But let me tell you, I'm getting there. Because first of all, we need to know what a speech is made of so we can effectively evaluate. So let's have a look at what comes under delivery. What should be in a speech to be best delivered or to be effectively delivered? We're looking for eye contact, body language, vocal variety, use of stage, audience interactions, confidence on the stage, and props. And then the purpose of the speech. Is that speech good enough? Is it persuading me? Is it inspiring me? Is it entertaining? Is it motivating? Is it informative? These are the elements and structure of any speech. You may take a screenshot if you wish to, because this is going to help you evaluate. What are we looking at is every little detail of a speech. And those details are found in the elements and the structure. So can we say what I'm looking at is what I heard, what I saw, and how I felt? This is what we are looking for when we are looking for anything, not just a speech. When we are looking at the speech, we are looking at what did we hear? What did we see? And what is the purpose of this entire speech? What has it got for me in it? This is how you approach an evaluation. This is only the breakdown of a speech. Now let's go to evaluate. Now, during the speech, what are you going to do? Okay, we are going to find out the objective. So that would come even before we get into the meeting hall, because we want to know what are the objective. So that is one of the things that when we as evaluators at a club meeting must approach the speaker and check what are the objectives of that speech. And that happens when the speaker will send the evaluation form to the evaluator. As an evaluator, if you want to effectively evaluate, it is important that we study the evaluation. The evaluation form, study the objective. What is it that I am going to look for in the speech? Which skill is it that the speaker is going to develop when he completes this project? And based on that, you will give your evaluation. Apart from that, other things. But in the case of a speech in the club, you will first look for the objective. That doesn't mean that in the contest you don't have an objective. The objective is even more bigger and refined. The objective there is, what is the message? The evaluation form, study the objective. What is it that I am going to look for in the speech? Which skill is it that the speaker is going to develop when he completes this project? And based on that, you will give your evaluation. Apart from that, other things. But in the case of a speech in the club, you will first look for the objective. That doesn't mean that in the contest, you don't have an objective. The objective is even more bigger and refined. The objective there is, what is the message? During the speech, what is it that you will be doing as an evaluator? You walk in to the meeting room or to that contest hall with an outline or a framework or a skeleton. And what do I mean by outline, framework, or skeleton? Nothing but a sheet of paper that is divided into three: what I heard, what I saw, how I felt. When you go with this framework, you are able to jot down what you heard, what you saw, what you felt. Rather than having to note down every word that the speaker is saying, and eventually with that, you end up paraphrasing what the speaker is saying, which has no benefit to the speaker when you paraphrase. So what you need to do is go with an outline or a skeleton. And what we fill into the skeleton is what we heard, what we saw, and how I felt. What exactly is that? We just discussed the elements and structure of the speech. We will put in what we heard, what we saw, and also make a note of what we did not hear, what we were expecting to hear, or what could be done there for us to hear, which would enhance that speech. What could be done better in what we saw that could enhance the speech. And eventually, if there was no feeling at the end of that speech, if that speech did not reach you, then that also becomes a recommendation as to how that speech can be improved to make an impact and for us to have a take-home message. So now let us see what we would do during the evaluation. Now that we know what we do when the speech is taking place, we are making a list. We are noting down what is happening. We are taking notes. We also are looking at the speaker. We are taking interest in the speech. We are taking interest in how the speaker is presenting the speech. Speech is done. You are given some time to prepare your evaluation. And then you hit the stage. When you are at that stage, what is it that is required from you to make it an effective evaluation? So first of all, remember that evaluation is a 3-minute speech. It is not just an evaluation where you just go and tell the speaker, oh, you did good at this and you could have done this and made the speech better. But it is a speech, a 3-minute speech. And as Toastmaster Swati said, in a speech, what are the 3 things that we would look for? An opening, a body, and a conclusion. So when you're delivering an evaluation, look at the opening. Just don't start with, oh, that was a wonderful speech, and I saw that you did this well, and this is what I recommend. But let there be an opening, let there be a hook, like how a speech would have. So what would you put in an opening of an evaluation? A 1 or 2 line gist of the speech based on what the speech was. I remember Toastmaster Willie Hill's speech about his sister. So if I had to begin with my evaluation of that speech, I would say, today Toastmaster Willie delivered a speech, a heart-wrenching speech of his relationship with his sister. So you see, I am getting it from the speech, but at the same time, not just blurting out straight into the speech. Or you could stress on the message. The message in his speech, I remember his speech was about having to keep connection with your family, having to keep that bond going throughout, even if things go haywire and you need to separate. So I would put that as the importance of maintaining a family bond. How will you evaluate is another option you can look into. You can start your opening by saying, fellow Toastmasters and guests, I will be evaluating Toastmaster Willie Hill's speech based on what I heard, what I saw, how I felt. So you're already putting it into the mind of the evaluator, the audience, and the judges, if you are at a contest, that you are going to follow a structure. And who doesn't like structure? Who doesn't like it coming in a proper order? So that's where you are going to get your brownie points if you are at a contest, telling what is coming. Now, having done the opening, let's move on to the body. And in the body, which is the main part, is you will analyze that speech. Here is what you will tell the audience, the speaker, what you heard, what you saw, and how you felt. And we all know we are going to first commend what was done good, and then we give them a recommendation of how it can be improved. you look at it, oh, how do I speak about what I heard, what I saw, what I felt, and tell all the things, comment on everything, and recommend on everything? It's possible. If you pick just one thing in each, what I heard, anything that was really worth mentioning, that was really good, pick what I heard, pick what you saw, pick how you felt. And then when you want to recommend, pick on what you really thought would add value to that speech. I recommend if you had to do this, if you had to say it in this way, if you had to add vocal variety, then your speech would have been much better. So the options are many. The other option, which basically I used, was when I had three things that I heard and they were recommended, that I commended on because they were very well emphasized on in that speech, very well presented, or rather the content was there. But when I came to how what I saw did not sync with what I heard, so that became my recommendation. So whatever I could recommend was in what I did not see. So when you're making your when you're filling in your skeleton, you put a plus sign and you jot down what you saw. You put a minus sign, meaning I did not see this, and this is what, if this was in the speech, it would enhance that speech. And then after you finished with commend and recommendation, you come to summary. And summary is very important because you're recapping, or you're telling the speaker once again what they did good and what they can do to improve the speech. Now, summary is something which we tend to miss out on. So I'll tell you how you will not forget on summarizing your speech. During evaluation, use positive words. Use words like, I loved how your presence on the stage gave us the essence of your speech, how you presented yourself. For example, I would have loved to see that you added some voice modulation. At this point, you could have said no, instead of simply saying no. You see, give examples of what you would have what you would have loved to see is something that where you can stress on by demonstrating. That again wins you brownie points if you're at a contest. So always just don't say, oh, I would have loved to see some vocal variety, but where exactly would you have loved to see that vocal variety? Stress on that. That's where you can pick on that sentence and paraphrase, but don't paraphrase the entire speech. Just pick on any words that you want to emphasize. For example, if there are triads in that speech, that's something that you need to make note of. So you can repeat that in the evaluation, saying that I love the use of triads in your speech. Coming to I suggest, I believe, because I believe if you do this, your speech will be much better. I suggest you can do this and make your speech better. So avoid using the words you did not or you should have. The tendency of saying you did not and you should have is more in the club evaluations, is because when we are looking at having whether the speaker has met the objectives or no, and then we just tell the speaker, oh, you did not meet the objectives. There is a way of putting that. You can easily say, you did well at the speech, but I would love to see you meet those objectives of this particular project. That's the essence of effective evaluation. Divide the stage, okay? Now, when I meant where we tend to forget on summary, okay? If you divide the stage, you will not forget the summary. So before you hit the stage, before you go on to that podium, map it in your mind that at this point, I will do the opening. At this place on the podium, I will commend on what was done well. At this place, I will recommend, and then come back to center to summarize. This, having done this mapping of the stage, which you would have otherwise, if you are a speaker, also map the stage. Why not map the stage when we are doing evaluation? And it will also give you brownie points, as if to say that you made proper use of the stage. This is why we need to divide the stage, so that we don't forget to summarize as an evaluator. And last, speak to the audience. We said evaluation is a speech. So it is very important that we just don't speak to the speaker, but to the audience, whoever is present in that meeting room and in the contest hall. So how would you address an evaluation? How would you address that speech? You would, but very often we say contest, general evaluator or contest chair, fellow Toastmasters and guests, and then we go back to the speaker saying, you should be, oh, I loved this, what you did, and I loved, but there is a way of including the audience, which is very important. Otherwise, your audience will tune out. Your judges will tune out. So what you need to do is present it to everyone. You can put it like this by saying, contest chair, fellow Toastmasters and guests, today Toastmaster so-and-so did this. Excellent at it. If he does this, if he or she does this. We are not saying we are not addressing it to the speaker and saying, if you do this, your speech will. He is part of the audience, so he knows that it is for him. And that is how you will deliver the speech, including each and every person present in that hall. That is also an effective way, because you are not only letting your speaker know how he can improve, but also the audience who have already created in their mind their own evaluation of that speech. And then they will see your perspective of the evaluation being addressed to all of them. Before I move on to something that is very important for contest, right now we have studied what is more important for evaluation at club level. But at this point, I would like to play a speech, and I want everybody to pay attention to that speech. And just what I have explained to you about, take a sheet of paper, put down what I heard, what I saw, how I felt. Put it down on paper, and while you're watching the speech, start analyzing the speech by putting down these three things. Put everything that you can think of in these three things. And after we're done with that speech, we will then come and share what we heard, what we saw. So I want everybody to do this, because I will call upon you to share your evaluation, your analysis, so that we can create an evaluation over here.
If I could rewrite history, James Jeffley.
Fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, it's such a tempting idea to be able to go back in time and change some of the things that have created so much pain and suffering in the world. What if I could go back and make it so that there wasn't a Hitler? What if I could go back and make it so that there wasn't a plague? What if I could rewrite history such that we would end poverty and injustice and suffering? It's such a tempting idea to go back and do that. But if I could rewrite history, there's a part of me that says, I wouldn't change a thing. Because to change all of that would mean that we would not be in this present moment with the opportunity to learn from our mistakes.
Okay, good.
To rewrite history would mean we would not be in this moment where we have a chance to learn, to grow, and to do better. To rewrite history would deny us our pain, because in that pain, I learn compassion. In the suffering and the struggle, I learn about my own courage. If I rewrote history and took away the things that create the dark night of the soul, my soul wouldn't have the chance to blossom and reach new heights. So as tempting as the idea is to go back and change history, I don't think I would change a thing. What I would do is I would decide in this moment to write a better history for myself, to make better decisions so that I live a little kinder, show a little more compassion, bring a little more love to the world. The history that I would change is the history that I make right now.
Let me share the whiteboard. You can access this whiteboard and put in whatever you wish to mention over here, what you saw, how you felt, and what you heard. So I see that a confident speaker has been mentioned over here. Okay. And there's somebody who's saying, I felt inspired that we don't need to change history. Excellent. If only I could trace who are the people who are telling me all this, it would be lovely. Let me evaluate the speech in short. Ladies and gentlemen, today we heard James speak his heart out on a topic that is very sensitive, of having to go back in history and change history. And he made it even more sensitive by taking us into the realm of history, which was destructive, by Hitler and the plague and various other things. What I heard from him was his personal experience in having to have his soul crushed. And if not for that, how would he made it out of that situation? What I saw today was him confidently speaking, connecting with the audience, and his body language, his gestures were awesome. And how did I feel about the speech? What I loved most about his speech and what I felt was that he inspired me to create history for myself, for us, each one, that we create history for ourselves and to make it one of kindness and love and compassion. To summarize, what I saw, what I heard was an excellent speech of humanity. What I saw was a confident speaker, and what I felt was inspired. If I had a recommendation for Toastmaster James, it would be to space it out so that we can catch up with what he would love to convey to us. I need to move on to explain how you can evaluate at a contest and give an effective evaluation at contest, which will get you those brownie points. When I went up for the contest in 2023, the TAC at Bahrain, I used the Aristotle artistic proof to evaluate the speaker. And to do that, to explain to you what Aristotle artistic proof are, basically ethos, pathos, and logos. Sounds Greek, but I'm going to explain to you in simple English. So, what is ethos? Ethos is basically credibility. And this credibility comes from the speaker. How do we know if the speaker is speaking something worth listening? Is it credible? Is it something that we can believe in? Can we trust the speaker on this message that he wants to convey through his speech? The best way to look for that is he giving us a personal story? Is he confiding with us? Is he confident in narrating that speech? Is there clarity in his speech? We all know we have the assistance of ChatGPT these days. But if it is coming from ChatGPT, the narration would not be so engaging. Is it coming from the speaker, from his heart? Now, that is what we will look for when we are looking for credibility. And all of this we can find in the content. In the content of the speech, where we are looking for a story, where we are looking for research. If there are facts and figures presented in that speech, where is the research? That is the credibility of that story, that speech. Moving on to pathos. Pathos is all about emotions. Again, what we saw. What is the emotion? And that connects with the audience. Was the speaker able to connect with the audience, to influence the audience, so that the audience feels the same and are on the same page as the speaker? And that we can get from the expression of the vocal variety, body language, and the audience interaction. When we are looking for pathos, we are looking for emotions. And lastly, coming to logos, which is the message. What is in it for me? In the speech, what is the message that the speaker is trying to tell me? Am I convinced enough on this message? And that again comes from the proofs, the research. If the speaker has given me enough weightage as to why I should believe in that speech, he has won that speech, I can evaluate effectively, telling him where he wins those brownie points. And lastly, this is me at DTAC winning the evaluation contest using the Aristotle's artistic proofs of effective communication. What you may ask is are these the only two ways to evaluate a speech? No. There are many ways, and it is up to you how you want to evaluate a speech. But I'll share with you few examples of how champions have evaluated speeches at contest or even club level. Let us start with example 3. We finished with what I heard, what I saw, what I felt. We finished with Aristotle's artistic proof, and moving on to the 3 C's of effective communication. This is very prominently used in communication in the office, where you need to be very clear, concise, and consistent. And it can be used in evaluation as well. And this is the proof is that distinguished Toastmaster Nancy won in 2019, she won the evaluation speech contest, having used the 3 C's of communication, effective communication. Moving on to World Champion of Public Speaking 2022, distinguished Toastmaster Cyril Dim. I had the pleasure of meeting him at District 116 DTAC this year on May 26, 27, and I was the test speaker there. So imagine him in the audience evaluating my speech, and I had the pleasure of asking him, please, can you evaluate my speech and tell me what I did good, what I need to improve on? And the questions he puts to me in his evaluations were, will I remember the speech? And he pointed out to me what he would remember in my speech. And that, he said, was good. Then he asked me, did I enjoy your speech? Did he find me comfortable on the stage? Was there vocal variety? Was there humor in my speech? Was there gestures in my speech? And he pointed out where they were and where they weren't. And lastly, he said, how will I apply it in my life? And he told me he was confused with the take-home message, because there were 2 messages that he got, and that is where I need to improve upon. So having received an evaluation from the World Champion of Public Speaking, I am working towards improving that speech so I can take it up next year to the International Speech Contest this coming 2024. And yet we have our very own distinguished Toastmaster Anil Lobo from Kuwait Challengers Toastmasters Club, now in India, giving us an idea of how you can effectively evaluate a speech. And that he says is to see if that speech persuaded you. And in the way of persuasion comes from the content. Is the content credible enough to persuade me? Did it inspire me? The pie, did it inspire me? And lastly, did it entertain me? Was it very boring and did you put in humor in the speech to keep me glued, to bring me back to that speech? So these are the three things that distinguished Toastmaster Anil Lobo used. And if I remember very well, when he used this to evaluate, he came to the stage. He was the last contestant as an evaluator, and he said, "Oh, all the evaluators before me must have told you had body language, you had gesture, you had clarity in your speech, but I am going to evaluate you based on PI: persuade, inspire, entertain." So you see, you are letting your judges and letting the audience know that you have a structure, and you are going to evaluate based on that structure. When you have a structure, you will not go wrong, because then you know what to say when, how to say it. Half the battle is won if you have a structure, because you can even have your words, your speech written much before, and just have fill in the blanks. Just pick out what you saw, what you felt, how you felt, and what you saw. Just put that in your speech and deliver your 3-minute speech. The best part about DTAC was the theme of DTAC had experience, enthusiasm, and excellence. And in my speech at DTAC, apart from using Aristotle's artistic proof, I did mention that the speaker shared his experience through the speech, and while mapping the stage, I mentioned to the speaker that there was lack of enthusiasm. He could have said he could have narrated his enthusiasm in a much better way by exaggerating or with the vocal variety that was required. And lastly, excellence. I had to make a recommendation on the excellence part of how he could take that speech to another level by keeping that prop that he had come in with high up, holding it as the beacon of hope. So what we need to do is pick on any three things. Now, one thing I need to make clear here, please don't mix these up. Each one is separate. Don't try this with another, with the pie, or with what Nancy had to do. Keep them separate. Use any one of these when you're evaluating. Make a note of all. Try all of them at different times in your club speeches, and this should help you prepare to give an evaluation at contest. I'm taking you to the evaluation contest judging ballot because it clearly mentions here that your evaluation should be clear and focused. Now, if you want to give a clear evaluation, it's best to go with an skeleton, an outline, so that half the battle is won. You can, based on what you have, as I said, prepare your speech and just fill in the blanks. Recommendations. How would the recommendations be? They should be positive, specific, and helpful. If you're a contestant, please have a look at this judge's ballot, because based on this is what you're going to receive your points, your grading. And the technique that you're going to use, is it going to be a sympathetic one? Is it going to be motivational? This is something which you can decide much before the speech is delivered. You'll decide for yourself, are you going to motivate the speaker, or are you going to sugarcoat your evaluation and be sympathetic? You get it? You can be sympathetic and win the brownie points. You can be motivational and win the brownie points. It's up to you how you are going to evaluate. And lastly, the summation, where you score 15 points. That's why divide the stage so you remember you have to summarize at a contest.